Helen, we're back here with Jesse Spradlin, and this has been good. Been a great
awesome.
set of music. You did a wonderful job tonight.
Thank you so much.
I have a few questions for you. Since Helen got to do the other part of the interview, I'm going to jump in here with a few things. One is, first of all, tell people about you. Where are you born and raised? Let's start there.
Yeah, so I was born in Virginia. Raised is a little more complicated.
We have time.
New Orleans, Louisiana, Savannah, Georgia, Fort Worth, Texas, Gretna, Virginia, and after that I went to school in upstate New York and back to Virginia. So, yeah, my dad was a minister and we moved around. Not like, you know, a military kid, like 17 times, but we moved probably like 8 times when I was a kid. Stay there for at least like 2 years or something, and then.
So if somebody was just say, where do you call home as far as your growing up? What would you say, New Orleans or?
I would say Virginia, actually.
Virginia, okay.
Yeah, I spent most of my life there. I went to high school there. I went to college there. So I feel like Virginia's home, but now Fort Worth feels like home. So.
The essence of what I hear you doing is soulful. It's bluesy, but it's not just that. You have another quality to you, as well as I hear things in you, especially in your phrasing, that are very folky. And I don't know where you flirted with folk music in your past, but I know you have, because your phrasing is almost totally in a folk environment. And I love it. Being a folk artist myself, so I really love hearing that. But when you start out, and where did you start out? Now you mentioned your dad was a minister, but he was also a musician.
Right.
So is that where you got your first start toward music? Would be your dad?
Well, my mom would not claim this, but she is also very musical as well. So she would sing a song she had written all the time whenever we were kids. I would say, actually, you know, I grew up around music. The first 2 records I got were Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and then actually a Frank Sinatra album, because I found the song Fly Me to the Moon on my dad's Windows Media Player. And
The one with Count Basie? The Frank Sinatra with Count Basie?
I have no idea.
That's what
All I know is
you're
it
talking
started
about
out
Sinatra at the Sands.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was some kind of mixtape of Frank Sinatra, CD, whatever. But I love that song, Fly Me to the Moon, and so that kind of like, I've always been intrigued by, like, Frank Sinatra was a huge influence on me, actually. I don't know if you could really tell. There's some, like, maybe like Baby Steps is an example of some of the chords I used that are kind of like jazzy or whatever, and there's some other songs I wrote that I didn't play here tonight that are very like, almost like indie style, like I call it coffee shop sounding. That it was really influenced by like Frank Sinatra and like stuff like that. But then I guess where I started in music, my whole family would sing all the time. I have 4 siblings, all of them sing, all of them write, all of them play instruments. So probably church was the first place I sang. I do remember my sister crying when she was 3 because she couldn't hear herself in the monitor.
Most 3-year-olds don't know what a monitor is.
My dad was so proud, and he was the kind of guy who was like, these in-ears, just a bunch of bull crap. He was like, I don't want a monitor. So, yeah, I think just singing for church performances, you know, it was very casual. We wouldn't get much notice from my dad. Be like, y'all are singing with me tonight. So, okay. So
Wasn't a discussion about it. You were going to sing with him.
It really depended. I think the older he got, the less he disclosed information to us about when he was going to throw us on stage. But he's a very spontaneous person. So I think that, you know, that may have been like the first time I really sang in front of anybody. It was probably in church. But I actually started writing songs because my sister, Pauline, she wrote songs on piano, and she would just have me sing harmony with her, so we would like co-write, and that's actually how I got into songwriting, was because she was already writing songs, and that was before I even got a guitar.
Is she older than you?
Mm-hmm. She's 2 years older than I am. Mm-hmm.
So, you had mentioned that your brother and you had co-written a song. Are any of your siblings doing what you're doing, or?
I don't know that they're doing it to the extent.
Professional.
You know, my brother right now lives in Los Angeles, and he really has an interest in doing that. My younger sister also has an interest, but I feel like for just like, I'm in a situation where I can do it, and I've worked a normal job and I hate my life when I do. So I'm like, this is hard, but it's much worse to feel stuck and, you know, like you're at a dead end. So I think maybe I'm spearheading it, but I think some of them might eventually do this as well. But they're all constantly writing, all constantly playing, you know, a lot of them sing and play in church and everything, and, you know, jam sessions.
So who are your influences on your writing? Who's your top 2 or 3 influences?
Writing, that's difficult.
Who do you listen to?
Well, I feel like that's such a hard question. Like, I don't want to be one of those people that's like everything, because that's not true. And I know that everyone says this answer, but I wasn't allowed to listen to non-Christian music until I was 13, except for the Beatles.
Yeah.
So, I know they influence everyone. That's like such a common answer, but truly, like, the Beatles were such an influence to me that I was like, that's the music I was introduced to. I remember when I was like 10, I found out that like pop stars didn't write their own songs, and I was like, I feel lied to. This is dirty. Like, what are you talking about? Britney Spears doesn't write her own music. I don't believe you. And so to me, like, I grew up listening to a few different sects of music, like the Beatles, like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Like, my first like actual record was like Dan Fogelberg, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know, stuff like Carole King. I really
You're preaching to the choir.
You know, but then I also listened to, I did listen to worship music, and I also listened to a lot of blues because my dad was a blues artist, and so blues was like subtly in everything.
The background.
Yeah, and you know, surprisingly, I never listened to country music. I really never did. I listen to blues, and I have a country accent, so I guess it sounds country.
I don't think you sound country.
But
No.
I think my family was honestly a big musical influence. Like my dad's brother, he's an incredible player. My cousin actually plays mandolin on a song that I released, Hold On to My Heart. And they grew, you know, we sing things like The Band, you know, like Bob Dylan, stuff like that. So
you're in the middle, right in the middle of the market there.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I also listen to a lot of really bad 90s punk pop music. So it just depends. Like Avril Lavigne, I would listen to her. I love Avril Lavigne still. You know, female artists that were hardcore. I liked her a lot. That played guitar. I really like girls who played guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So it's real, like, you know, mix of stuff, you know. So most of the people that I get compared to, I actually have not listened to a lot. So they haven't been like an influence, and I was, you know, so.
I think you have
Who
a
would
very.
that be? Who do you get compared with regularly?
I get compared to Stevie Nicks, which I did listen to Fleetwood Mac.
I just think you got a much stronger voice.
I get compared to Bonnie Raitt. Sometimes in my like more jazzy stuff, I get compared to Nora Jones and then Alison Krauss. So
Okay.
I love
That's good
all of
company.
those people, and they're all kind of different vibes. So I take it as such a humongous compliment. But I don't really, not that I wouldn't listen to them, but those people weren't like huge influences that I pulled from.
Mm-hmm.
It's just who I happen to maybe be in the same category at. Oh, I also love the Civil Wars and Joy Williams. If you guys have never listened to the Civil Wars, you're missing out in life. Oh,
Okay, I'll go
just
look 'em
trust
up.
me. You're gonna thank me.
Okay.
Seriously. Yeah.
So,
Jesse, who you say?
They're in the band. It's a duo. It's called The Civil Wars. It's like swampy bluegrass and songwriter stuff. You love it.
Are they regional or?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, they're not a band anymore, but they were a duo for a while.
Okay. Where would you see yourself in 4 or 5 years from now? Where would you kind of like to be musically? Because that's where you will be. It's where you see yourself.
5 years. Well, I want to be a touring artist. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to tour with a full band. I love doing singer-songwriter stuff, but my heart is really, to be performing with a band. And that's kind of how the shows that I'm leaning toward now, because I do love songwriting, but I also want to be able to perform and, let the songs be the greatest they can be. I just watched a documentary on like Shania Twain a couple days ago, and how she like revolutionized country music in a way, and she said something in an interview saying, I wanted to get out from behind my guitar and start playing like a rock artist. And I was like, I can so relate to that, because I love doing the singer-songwriter thing, but I'm not fully satisfied with that. I want to be able to have a bigger reach and have a wider range of people that will be able to enjoy it. And I just want to be able to put on a good show. So hopefully I can, open for somebody or go on tour. Maybe a lot of independent artists go on tour themselves. So we'll see. That's what I'm
keeping a band together is hard to do. It's the hardest part.
Not if you give them lots of money.
Well, but you got if you've got lots of money, you definitely keep them.
There you go.
So you are recently married, I understand.
Yeah, a little over a year now.
Yeah, still newlyweds.
Zoom in. No, I'm kidding.
Beautiful ring, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And I take it that your husband is very supportive of what you do.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Actually,
You better be.
he is literally the best. I say all the time that like I couldn't have dreamed a better person to be in this with me. He's like I remember he actually got the privilege of asking my dad, if not for my hand in marriage, but
Bless him.
Oh, well, he kind of, I told my dad, and my dad's first question was, what does he think about your music? And I was like, Dad, he supports it, he loves it, everything, he's like, I told him what he was in for. And my dad was like, all right, as long as he supports your music, then I have all green lights. I love the guy, all the things. And so it was like, that was a stipulation. And I remember like early in our dating relationship, I'm like, I'm just letting you know, I'm gonna be out late. You're gonna hear guitar all the time, and I probably won't make very much money at first. And I was like, I really, really drilled into his head like, this is gonna be rough, and if you're not ready to do this, then just then we shouldn't even hitch our wagons together. But he was just like, oh my gosh, I'm excited. Like, this is so fun. Like, every time I get like upset or something doesn't go right, and I'm like, oh man, getting my little moody, broody artist phase where I'm like, maybe I should just give up. I'm too old for this, and blah blah blah. And with all these 17-year-olds winning Grammys, I'm just like, oh God, like what am I doing with my life? And he just looks at me. He's like, I'm so excited, and I'm just like, I can't handle your excitement right now. Okay, I'm upset. All right. But he is my biggest fan. He's like the best roadie in the world. He brought me snacks today. Yay. I mean, he will go to any coffee shop for me. Anyways, he has other good qualities besides the fact that he gives me food and coffee, but but those are really big ones, so
thoughtful. The thoughtfulness of it all.
He is such a servant is like the best way I could say it. And not just to me, like that's how I fell in love with him in the first place, was I saw him just serving other people, and I was like, man, I can't marry him because he's clearly too young for me, but someone like him. And you know what? I realized, I guess I can marry him. 6 years isn't that bad.
So have you ever thought about I don't know how old you are, and I won't ask because it's my business, but have you thought about like going on American Idol or what else is there, Randy? There's
America's Got Talent.
America's Got, one of those shows with,
I have thought about it,
yeah.
and I've done it 4 times.
Have you?
And I've got told no 4 times.
You're kidding me. What's
So-
wrong with them?
You know, the way those shows are,
They're looking for
Set
certain
up.
things too.
yeah, it's an audition in all senses of the word. You know, it's not just can you sing and do you have a good performance, and you know, there's a lot of other things. I mean, one time there was an agent working with me. She was trying to get me on, and they said they had too many folksy singers, or a folk singer won last year, so we're not putting anybody in the ring that, you know, is in that same category. We want somebody different to win, or you know, you don't have a good enough and intriguing enough story, or you don't have a story that, I mean, like, if you notice when you watch those shows, it's like really over dramatic, and like people are telling their stories, and it's always a really, you know, underdog story, which, you know, they're wanting to make great TV, so I totally get it. But and for whatever reason, I've just never been a good fit for whatever show it was at the time, and I kind of just decided I think I'm going to go a different route. I hope to go a more organic way, because it just doesn't seem like that's the door that's open for me, and I'm totally okay with that. You know, everybody has a different path.
Sure.
And that just must not be mine.
So do you feel like as a writer that you gear towards something, or are you compelled to write? In other words, are you inspired, or are you compelled? Do you have to write?
I think it's both. I don't think I could really choose one. I think sometimes I'm inspired just because I'm musical and I'm a storyteller. My college degree is in journalism. So like storytelling is always like, I love storytelling. Like, I mean, I was a newspaper writer in college, and like I loved like writing stories. I mean, my English was my favorite class. Like, you know, storytelling in itself is like a love of mine. Like, I love to write in any way, shape, or form.
So you are driven from the inside then?
I mean, I don't know what writer couldn't be driven from the inside. I'm compelled also, like, when I go through things, or not even go through things, have an emotion, you know, if it can be happy, it can be sad, it can be difficult. You know, a lot of times when I'm going through something, I don't really write while I'm going through it. It's more of my processing after the math. But I feel like every song is different, and, you know, every writer is different. So it just depends. Every story is kind of different as to how it came about. But I think it's both. I think I'm inspired, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just had this like concept for a song. I have to like figure this out. And I'm like, it's like 12:30 at night, and I'm like, Sandra, I'm going to the music room. I'll see you tomorrow. And I, you know, and then other times I'm also just have to exercise that muscle. I'm like,
right.
I need to write. I don't feel like writing. I don't want to write, but I need to write because I can't.
Even if
get
it's just a
rusty.
line.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if I finish a song and it sucks, I'm like, okay, well at least I, you know, got that one out of the way.
The hardest
you know,
thing
like,
to do with the song is to finish it anyway. So.
Yeah, and I'm like, I mean, Ed Sheeran, for his like one of his biggest albums, Divide, he said they wrote over like 100 songs, and I'm like, there were like what, 12, 15 songs on it, and I'm like, you know, it's good enough for Ed Sheeran. It sure as heck's good enough for me. So.
Do you see yourself doing this for life?
Yes, I do. I really don't know what else I could do or would do. I mean, you know, except for also like maybe eventually far, far, far away, like galaxy, Star Wars, way, way over there, one day have kids and, you know, have that be a part of it. But I feel like they're just going to be a bunch of gypsies and follow me around in a bus all the time. So.
Hey, it worked. It
Yeah.
worked for you.
True story. We had a 15-passenger van, not quite a bus, but yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask you that is when we've talked to the literally thousands of singer-songwriters, the one thing that I always want to know is, are you compelled enough to do this, to do it even if you never have a big hit, even if you never have the big stardom, would you be happy doing this 30 years from now, 20 years from now, just doing what you're doing and going out and singing your songs and writing your songs for people?
I think it depends. I am a goal-oriented person, and I refuse to believe that I will do this and not
Yeah.
make it.
But I didn't, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, when you start out in this, everybody has the same things. That's that one big hit, one big start, you know. But then what I see is, I see the happier people I see out there are the ones that are compelled to do it, and they're going to do it whether they make a great living or if they've got to do that in life. And I'm wondering if that's you.
Well, I'll tell you this. I believe that every person on the planet has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this is my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So
I believe it's your purpose too.
I don't think I would be satisfied never reaching the goals I have, but also I've gotten this far. And I've been doing this since I was like 16, and there's a lot of times that you always have the option to give up. But, you know,
I would never suggest you do that.
And so, and you know, it's kind of like you have to have a determination and you have to put blinders on. So maybe, you know, I'm sure I'll go through tests where that's tested and I'm like, am I really going to keep going after this? You know, but I have confidence that even if I feel like giving up, my husband won't let me.
Well, I would, by the way, giving up is not, I mean, you're not giving up by going and playing your music in front of people. That's why you write, is to be able to.
Yeah, I think as long as I'm making,
Sure.
my goal is to encourage people and to be an influence on them and to really, truly have other people get deeper, more deeply connected to what their purpose is. And if I can empower other people to do that, then I mean that's why
You
I
lift
do
yourself
this.
higher.
So
A rising tide lifts all boats.
yeah, so I'm like, you know, if I think that I would be satisfied knowing that I am where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there.
There you go.
I don't really know what that looks like, so I couldn't tell you.
You'll know it when
but
you get there.
Yeah, so
It's just like love, you know it when you get there.
yeah.
You know.
I hope I answered that. I don't know.
Yeah, great answer.
So, in your songwriting, do you feel like that it's becoming easier as the more you write, or are you challenging yourself more to do more difficult things, or both?
Well, to be completely vulnerable, I think after COVID and after losing my dad, I think I, you know, have been more intimidated to write new music than anything. But I said to my friend the other day that intimidation is, I believe, is the silencer of creativity.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think that it's gotten a little bit more difficult for me to write, but it's kind of like I'm just pushing through and I'm like, I am gonna write, like I said, you know, even if it's not like the greatest song, it's I feel like you have to learn not to self-analyze in the writing process. If you are done writing, you're like, oh, I need to edit, or is this really for a record? Does this need to change? You know, then that's another thing. But it's actually a discipline, for me at least, not to criticize or tear something apart during the creative process.
Right.
Because like I said, intimidation is the silencer of creativity. Like I've like talked myself out of writing a song before because I'm like, oh, this is so dumb. Oh, everyone uses this chord progression. Oh, whatever. And then I just stop writing it. And so I think it's become like currently I'm like just practicing the muscle. You know, there's some inspiration, some being compelled.
Does it well up inside of you and just feel like you got to get it out?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not always like
That's
that.
usually when you got a song.
Sometimes it's like that, and sometimes those are good, and sometimes those are bad. But yeah, it's definitely not always like that. Those are the times that I'm like, oh, well, this is easy. Yeah, there's the you know, the word vomit. I could just throw up and, you know, have the zingers and the perfect melody and the lyrics and catchy, you know, everything, but it doesn't always happen that way for me. I mean, maybe other people, but that's more of a rare occurrence for me.
Wow. Well, I think you got it all going on, and I think you're going to go very far, and I can see your determination.
Your determination is a big part of you, and that's the front part that I like a lot, because you're sitting here telling me you're not a quitter. You hadn't said that, but you're not a quitter, and that, in my opinion, you're a winner.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
So
I'll
you just gotta collect the winnings.
Yeah.
You know, time to go collect the winnings. In life. So it's great having you here,
Oh, thank you so much.
And-
It's so great to be here.
and I want you to come back and do a show with us next year. And
yeah,
and we were talking about maybe you and Crystal or something like that.
Yeah.
Let me work on that.
I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you, studio listening
Everybody
audience.
in the audience tonight.
And you are in the music room.